So Manchester City welcome Arsenal to the Etihad today, where they are on a club record run of scoring in each of their past 57 home games in all competitions. City are winless, though, in all 5 of their top-flight fixtures this season against sides currently in the top 5 of the table, drawing 3 and losing 2. Ahead of the game, manager Pep Guardiola has confirmed that key defensive duo Kyle Walker and John Stones will miss the game after picking up injuries whilst playing for England. In his pre-match presser, Pep was asked what Arsenal have improved on from last season.
Same manager, new players, control many aspects of the game, and every time was better and better. So it's normal. When you have a consistent in terms of ideas and managers in the same patterns, at the end always you improve. When you change a lot of managers and players, and after it's more difficult. So I could not expect differently from the beginning of the start of the season.
Well, join us then to look ahead to this game and also give us a reaction to what happened last night in the draw between Brentford and Manchester United is the Guardian's Manchester football correspondent, Jamie Jackson. Jamie, how are you? Good morning.
Jamie?
I'm very well, thank you. Good morning.
I want to get straight to that record that Manchester City have this season against sides currently in the top 5 of the table, drawing 3 and losing 2. That's baffling, isn't it, in a way, and quite concerning coming into this game, is it not?
Yeah, it is concerning. I suppose if you're Guardiola, you're thinking, well, okay, that's our record, but we're still in contention, just a point behind Arsenal, Liverpool. But yeah, I don't know. It's sort of glass half full. As I say, they're not the sort of force, the unbelievable force they have been previously. Yet they are still in contention.
Yeah,
you keep, the season is now in the sort of closing phase, so you have been waiting for them to click, but maybe this is City this season, if you understand what I mean, sort of just doing enough to stay in contention. And this is a very interesting game, obviously, later on today, because in the Observer this morning, I've written a piece in which I've gently suggested that if Arsenal were to win this, okay, there'd be 4 points ahead of City. And I'm not saying this would necessarily happen, but you just wonder whether, because a few of these players have been under Guardiola for so long, whether not the end of City's reign, but there might be a shift in power a little bit to sort of North London. I know that Liverpool have still got the same points. It's about goal difference at the moment, but it's so precarious and finely balanced this Manchester City team. They've listened to the same sort of messages from Guardiola, who is a genius, by the way, in remotivating these players to go again and again and again, as we've seen. You just wonder whether there might be a shift if Arsenal can pull this one off. But on the other hand, there's been other moments in Pep Guardiola's reign, going back 2 or 3 or 4 years, when I thought, is he maybe not fatigued, but a little bit, there's a certain shelf life, and he's proved me wrong in that thinking. So, this is why we love sport. You never quite know. Put it the other way around. If City win this game, I think they are then favourites, because obviously they've got the points back, but that is a massive blow to Arsenal. But, I look at Arsenal this season, I think maybe they've just thought, you know what, last season, not that we bottled it, but why weren't we just a little bit more aggressive, a little bit more, let's not care about the results so much, let's just go for it, as they have done this season. They're getting the rewards. So I think there is a difference in their sort of mental approach.
Jamie, you have to be careful sometimes in the job that we do, because a manager like Guardiola can make you eat humble pie. I remember thinking that with Fergie when they had difficult times, and you say maybe it's and you end up eating humble pie. And I just look at Guardiola and think, he ain't lost a game since December the 6th. We're now in April, literally on top of April, and he's gone all them games without losing, and yet we're wondering, are they the same City? Are they the side that, that have dominated so much of the Premier Leagues in recent seasons? I just feel like, if I say anything, because I think Arsenal got a chance. What I've seen, I feel like, yeah, they could go and do it. They're good enough to do it. But then you have to go, well, it is Man City and it is Guardiola. Maybe we're jumping ahead of ourselves.
100%, Tony. I mean, this is kind of what I'm getting at. It's very difficult, because in our job, part of our job is also to look for any sort of slight sign of maybe not weakness, but maybe a change in sort of, who's the best team in a particular season, or sort of a period. So I completely hear what you're saying. I mean, the last defeat you mentioned there was Villa away. I think it was a 1-0. And even then, they'd drawn 3, and that was considered a blip. So they hadn't lost sort of 2 or 3 in that run. They'd drawn 3 and then lost this game. And he came out in the following press conference and said, we've been living like a cat who gets stroked. sort of a lot and is all comfortable, and he included himself in that. And that was him remotivating the side. And this is kind of what I'm talking about. What a genius he is. He sort of knows when to use the media just to sort of give him a little prompt. And as you say, I think is it 22 games unbeaten since?
Yeah.
It's phenomenal. I mean, they are phenomenal. And you're completely right about the humble pie. I mean, I was thinking about the Fergie thing. And there were 2 or 3 periods in his unbelievable 26.5-year reign once he got going, sort of early 90s, where you wondered, oh, yeah, is this a sort of a change in the guard? And Guardiola has got that same fire. That's the biggest compliment I can give Guardiola to a certain extent. He's like Ferguson in his sort of unbelievable, relentless, doesn't want to lose, but wants to win. And when there is almost a sort of a blip, he kind of thrives on that and finds a way to remotivate, this unbelievable group of players. So, yeah, they'll probably win. After I've said all this about Arsenal, City will probably win 5-0 this afternoon, and I'll be eating a humble pie.
You talk about blips. Manchester United, should we call it a blip yesterday? What we saw at the G-Tech Community Stadium. They earned a point, and it was 2 late goals in the game that settled it. But they came up against a Brentford side that had a club Premier League record of 31 shots on goal compared to just the 11 for Manchester United. Having gone from the highs of beating Liverpool in the FA Cup in the quarterfinals, and obviously there was the international break in between. I mean, how much of a come down was that performance last night?
It was, and it part, Natalie, of kind of a cycle of Manchester United sort of this season, last few seasons since Ferguson left, really, in which, I don't support Manchester United, but my son, who is 12, does. And I've got to be honest, he said to me he was bored by it, and he watches them all the time. He loves them. It was very, very average, and I'm being polite. I mean, Brentford played really well. I don't, I'm just wondering in terms of his future, Ten Hag, where if Ratcliffe will look at it and sort of not write this season off, but so Jim Ratcliffe will think, you know what, we need to get to the summer. Let's give this guy a proper chance. Sort of, the ownership thing's settled now, and let's just see what it can actually do with a sort of let's say a sort of more solid structure behind him, because he has been dealing with a lot of different things. Or they might go the other way and think, you know what, forget about that. Last summer he oversaw, let's say, a dodgy transfer sort of recruitment drive. He's had this season, whatever's going on in the background, it's his job to manage this side. Where is the pattern of play? This sort of thing that's thrown at him. But I do think it's valid. You looked at that last night and you thought, as I did anyway, thought this is just sort of average. This is sort of, there is nothing here, any sort of glimmer of consistent. And, the Liverpool game was kind of classic Manchester United. They could pull these sort of, they are a bit of a cup team, whether it's in the cup or the Premier League. Yeah, they have these sort of one-off results or sort of moments in games which can turn games and win them. As they did against Liverpool. But there is no sort of, we're never sort of really sitting here after 7, 8, 9, 10 games thinking, after a run thinking, United have got it together at last.
Yeah.
So it's just whether the thing that Ratcliffe's got is who do they bring in? I mean, to a certain extent, there should not be a reason to remove a manager, but you just wonder whether they will look at it and, it could go either way. They've got to win the FA Cup, and I don't know whether they're going to finish 5th now, but I think if they win the FA Cup, obviously it helps them a lot. I don't know. It's just you are scratching your head, wondering how after the best part of 2 seasons now, Ten Hag's had with these players, what is going on the field in terms of how they play.
Yeah, well, Jamie, just one quick point on that is that, look, you can have a game, you can play poorly. Technically, Man United players are always very gifted. But when you come off second best in the physical battle in a game, then that raises far more, I think, tougher questions.
Definitely. I mean, he said it afterwards, didn't he, Ten Hag? Last night, we have to be more aggressive. And you're thinking, wait a minute, more aggressive, that should be, if you see a Sunday Parks game, there's aggression there. All players, whatever level, should have that ability to sort of fight. And you just wonder, what is he saying at half time? Maybe he is saying, but what is he saying on the training ground? I'm sure he's giving the message to them that you base sort of fundamentals in a game of football at the top level is to compete properly, but it's just not happening. So that is a concern. You're right. If the fundamentals aren't there, it plays into the sort of the whole thing about what is actually going on. He did. I'm going to say he did inherit quite a lot of players that are still there that he probably needs to get rid of. I don't know, but you feel like you're making excuses for the guy a little bit because, as I say, he's had 2 summer windows. We're in the back end of his second season. He did very well last. Listen, he could still win the FA Cup, But imagine, and it could happen. Imagine if they lose to Coventry in that semi-final. Then what are we going to be saying? What's Sir Jim Ratcliffe and Sir Dave Brailsford going to be thinking?
On AM, on DAB, via the talkSPORT app, and on your smart speaker. talkSPORT.